Today we are going to solve two-step equations. So to solve two-step equations, we want to undo each operation in reverse order. So we're actually going to go in reverse of the order of operations. So let's look at the first one. Now remember that some of these may be easy, you could do them in your head, but remember that we want to focus on the process because when we get to the bigger equations with variables on both sides or where we have to combine like terms, we want to make sure that we're really organized in our work. So 3x plus 1 equals 7. The first thing we want to do is to take away the constant. What we do to one side, we must do to the other side. So these would cancel out, and we are left with 3x equals 6. Now 3 times x is multiplication, so we undo multiplication by dividing. And x equals 2. That's the basic process. We want to add or subtract first, and then multiply or divide next. So number 2 is 25 equals 1/4 times n minus 3. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. Since 3 was subtracted, we do the opposite, so we're going to add 3. And we're left with 28 equals 1/4 times n. Now remember 1/4 is being multiplied by n, so we need to divide by 1/4. Remember that when we divide by a fraction, we're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 4. Because I'm dividing by 1/4, that's actually multiplying by its reciprocal. So 1/4 times 4 cancels out. That becomes a 1. And 4 times 28 is 112 equals n. Remember, you can always go back and check these. If you did 1/4 times 112 minus 23, a 4th times 112 would be 28. 28 minus 3 is 25. Okay, let's look at actually I'd like for you to try number 3 on your own. So pause this and then we'll go over it in just a second. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to go over this one. So this one's written a little bit different. We have 5 plus 2x equals a negative 1. So this is a positive 5. So the way that we can get rid of that 5 is by subtracting it from both sides. So 5 minus 5 would be 0. I'm left with 2x. And a negative 1 minus 5, remember your integer rules, is leave the first and then add the opposite. So a negative 1 plus a negative 5 is a negative 6. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. X equals negative 3. Now please make sure that you are showing your work exactly like I am. We will be looking at your work and making sure that you're doing the whole process. We don't want any guessing and checking, and we don't want any doing this in your head. Want to show every step. Now number 4 is a little bit different. We have, I'm going to rewrite this, 7m plus 2 divided by 10 equals 3. So we're going to treat this like a fraction, 7m plus 2 over 10. And so that's a division problem. So we're going to multiply both sides by 10. So when I do that, basically this is going to cancel out the 10. And I'm going to be left with 7m plus 2 equals 30. So again, I multiplied both sides by 10 over 1. And with our multiplication rules, this would cancel out, and I'm left with 7m plus 2. Now I'm going to go through the process, subtract 2 from both sides. 7m equals 28. Divide both sides by 7. m equals 4. So if you have any questions about these, remember to make sure you ask in class. Okay, some equations are going to require us to combine like terms before solving the equation. So let's look at this example. Negative 2y plus y minus 5 equals 11. So before we start the process, we want to make sure that we combine all like terms before we solve. So our like terms here are negative 2y and y. So in negative 2y plus 1y, so negative 2 plus 1 is a negative 1y. We usually don't put the 1 in front of it, but it's okay. Bring down the rest of the problem. And now I have a two-step equation. Going to add both 5 to both sides. Don't forget this negative. Now, even though we have a negative 1y equals 16, we don't want y to be negative. We never want our variable to be negative. So I'm going to divide by negative 1. So y equals a negative 16. Okay, I'd like for you to try number 2 on your own, and we'll check that in class tomorrow. Let's look at number 3. This one's a little more complicated. We have z plus 4 times 6 minus z equals 21. So I want to use the distributive property first. So z plus 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times a negative z is negative 4z, and that equals 21. Remember, if you're struggling with why this is a negative, remember we add the opposite. And even if you did this, that's still the same thing. So 1z, these are our like terms, now we have to combine. 1z plus a negative 4z is a negative 3z plus 24 equals 21. Going to subtract 24 from both sides. Left with 3z equals a negative 3. And now I'm going to divide by a negative 3. And I'm left with z equals positive 1. So it's really important. We're combining a lot of skills here. We're simplifying terms. We're adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing integers. We're doing equation operations. So we have a lot of skills combined in this one lesson. So we need to make sure that we're being really careful with our integers. And if you have any questions, make sure you're asking that in class.